through this. Just bear with me here. A lot of notes that I'm going to look at here. Just about a couple minutes ago, these senators came out of this briefing with Secret Service. They've been asking for it for days now. Finally got it with the director and Secret Service staff. And the top headline that has come out of it, according to Senator John Barrasso, just spoke to him as soon as he hung up on this briefing. He said that apparently the Secret Service had identified as a character of suspicion this man, this shooter, because they saw a rangefinder on him as well as a backpack. And this all happened more than an hour before the shooting actually occurred. So they saw the guy and they identified this guy as suspicious. Now, more details.
I had a feeling that more and more information was going to come out about this, but as you guys are about to see, somebody is obviously getting confronted over a screw up.
And you will put him within less than an inch of his life. So resignation or full explanation to us right now.
We are trying to get our questions out, and he never was running the fire. It may not have been the director who was nearly killed. You mean an hour out, you have a suspicious person, and at 5:51, according to the timeline of your deputy, you identified a potential threat. And then at 5:53, you told, or someone told, that the sniper, that he was there. But can you give us an explanation? Why would anyone allow the president to go on stage when you know you've got a potential threat and you've got snipers that are trained on it? Why? I don't think that this is the format that is discussion.
Well, you hung up on it. We're here. You cut off the meeting short.
That was last night at the RNC. Senators Marsha Blackburn and Senator, I want to say it was Tom Barrasso. They confronted the head of the Secret Service, who, by the way, the head of the Secret Service is getting a lot of heat because of what happened last Saturday. Now, guys, really quick, before we get started, I want you to know right now, I got to make a slight adjustment in my content. The video on what happens to the left, that video will be coming out tomorrow because, well, it's kind of a bigger video. And, of course, the video that I have coming out on Destiny's craziness and his takes on this situation, how it was that he's now been demonetized from Kick, how it is that he's now been demonetized on Twitter, the things that he has said, the Pierce Morgan meltdown, all that type of crap there. Me basically telling my audience out there that if you thought this guy was a sane liberal, you were wrong the whole time because he was always like this. That video will be coming out on Saturday. It'll be a relatively big video, so make sure you guys stick around for that one. And the video that I had planned for last week, you mustn't allow yourself to be chained to fate, or why you should not allow yourself to be chained to fate. That video is probably going to be coming out on Sunday. So yeah, we're going to be posting on the weekend. Something else too, the bandage is officially gone, but of course, I want to try to keep my face angled as much as I can to this side over here because it still looks kind of bad. I've actually seen it now for the first time since the actual surgery. But still, though, we got a lot to talk about, and the second video is going to be about the whole media pushing the whole hoax narrative or stage narrative, which obviously does not make any sense. I may even make a special video on that one this weekend. I'm not too sure. That way there may be a replacement. But, of course, this story is going to be trending for at least the rest of the month, especially given the fact that now you have the Republican National Convention, and, of course, on top of that, you're going to be having the Democratic National Convention, and, oh, yeah, that's right, Biden somehow or another got COVID for like the umpteenth time. Very, very weird, if you ask me. But you guys obviously caught at the very beginning of the video that obviously the Secret Service did have beforehand knowledge of what's going on and what was actually happening that day. Apparently, they found a rangefinder on Mr. Crooks. Apparently, they spotted him out. And, of course, there's also another report that even suggests that maybe he was spotted even sooner than what the Secret Service is willing to admit. Let's watch the other half of that news report that I led with.
Coming from a source familiar here who was also in the meeting tells me that about 10 minutes before former President Trump went onto the stage, they had gone from looking at this guy as suspicious to now looking at him as a threat. That is coming from this briefing that the senators were in. They were told that Secret Service had called it in to a center that this guy they now identified as a threat about 10 minutes before President Trump walked on stage, and they still allowed him to walk onto that stage. I'm told the Secret Service agent in charge there was on the phone with local and state police about the threat while the shooting was taking
One of the excuses that the Secret Service is giving right now is that they did not want to put any of their agents on a slope. Dan Bongino has been tearing this apart, for the past week and a half, especially given that the slope looked like this here. Not really much of a slope. You probably should have had a shooter there in that location. If you probably had sent people out there, it probably would have been avoided. But then again, though, at the same time, though, if it had been avoided, it probably would have happened again at a later date, meaning that somebody was probably going to take a shot at it at some point in time. And of course, the mainstream media is still going to run that whole he's a registered Republican narrative, even though we got the donations list that showed that he, how do I say this, actually donated to blue causes. So once again, that narrative is obviously gone. But of course, in the follow-up video that we're going to be posting later on today, they're also now trying to run with the whole it was staged because we don't have any medical records. We saw the guy get shot in the ear. There's videos of the actual bullet, the hole itself. There's also a second hole in his ear because obviously when a bullet goes through, it's going to leave an inch. It's going to leave an exit wound. We'll talk more about that in video number 2, especially given the fact that it was an AR weapon. If you guys pay attention to the actual sound of the shooting, it sounds more to me like it was a spray and pray type thing, but don't worry, we'll talk more about that in video number 2. And like I said, I may even make a specialty video discussing the whole thing all together this weekend. But then again, though, maybe the second video of the day may suffice. However, what in the world kind of led to this situation? So people have already got their theories out there. People are out there going along with the whole notion that there were multiple shooters and all that type of stuff there, and people in the crowd already knew. There's also this photo, this video, this woman apparently looking very suspicious. But I think at this point in time, I think the simplest answer to this question, or I think that the simplest explanation is probably the best. The whole Occam's razor theory. Well, let's go ahead and talk about that. Shortly after the shooting took place, you see all kinds of photos of the female Secret Service agents, which is kind of odd, especially given the fact that Trump's Secret Service detail now is all men. And of course, the Secret Service, the head of the Secret Service, she's saying that, well, we changed it, the details, and we're finding out that this detail here was actually a switch. It was an alternate detail, all that type of stuff there, all kinds of mistakes that could have been made. And there's even been this one post out there that says that the guy who actually shot Mr. Crooks was actually told not to fire and he's already lost his job. I would put that in this video, but instead what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to link that Twitter thread in the description box because the person, I'm not saying I fully believe them, but the person who posted the TikTok video does sound credible, and it does sound like something that the federal government would do. Now, it's very easy to hit on the Secret Service at this moment in time, especially given the fact that a man by the name of Corey Carpenter lost his life in the situation. And of course, we're not really talking much about him, which is really sad because once again, somebody did die, and it was that guy, fire chief, a 50-year-old fire chief who was retired and was protecting his family. And therefore, you got to ask yourself a question: exactly how incompetent is this organization? Now, let me talk about the Secret Service momentarily before we get to all the stuff that people are kind of looking at now. So let me start by saying this. As a guy who did pull time in the military, I understand what it's like, especially if you're in a combat arms MOS, to go to the field constantly, to be up and down. I kind of understand that, the hurry up and wait notion. Sometimes you sleep odd hours. Police officers, for example, most of the time they work 12 on, 12 off. They have very, very odd hours. I understand it's not the same, but it's close to the same field, police officers and Secret Service, because a lot of Secret Service are former cops, especially big city cops. And the Secret Service was originally created to investigate stuff like counterfeit money. It's just after a while they chose to put them on the president because Abraham Lincoln was not the only president that was assassinated. Eventually James Garfield was assassinated, and then eventually after he was assassinated, William McKinley, he was actually killed, died as a result of his wounds. So did James Garfield. Teddy Roosevelt, even though he was not president at the time, he was shot while giving a speech in 1912. We all know about Jack Kennedy. Gerald Ford survived presidential assassination attempts. Who else survived? Oh, yes, right. Ronald Reagan, he survived one. Reagan, actually, the bullet went through and got to his chest, got near his heart, and they actually had to do an operation on him. Now, I don't want to turn this video into a history of presidential assassinations, but I'm pretty sure you guys kind of understand why it is that the Secret Service is there. And there have been failures in the past. But the point is this right here. A lot of these guys do work extremely hard, bad hours. Secret Services know, look, like I said, go back to cops. They work 12 on, 12 off. It's a field of back problems. I learned this right when I was in the law enforcement academy. United States Marine Corps, my former branch, okay? If you're in the Army, Special Forces, you got to get used to that, to the hard hours. Firefighters. Oh my God, firefighters. You're working 24 on, sometimes 48 off, sometimes it's 24 on, 24 off. Sometimes it's shifts, sometimes you're on call. Same thing with EMS personnel. You got to get used to the grind. You got to get used to the odd hours. So we kind of respect that, and especially Secret Service, who are protecting the president at all time. They got to work in shift work too, but of course they're also on call in case a threat comes in. That being said, though, you would obviously want the best of the best protecting the president. It's one of the main reasons why it is people were automatically talking about Eric Prince, and they were talking about mercenary groups and veterans organizations possibly protecting the president. I'm very, very much open to that. Obviously, I'm not charged. I'm just a lowly YouTuber. But still, at the same time, though, obviously the president of the United States, regardless who the president is or presidential candidates, they obviously need the protection, including the first family. It's something that's afforded to them for the next 10 years of their life after they get out of office. It just so happens to be that in Trump's case, given his age, he probably wins this election, but probably dies sometime after he gets out of office. But obviously, he's much, much more spry than the current administration, who, like I mentioned before, is still somehow finds a way to catch COVID. So, yeah, the point is this right here. We need the best of the best protecting our leaders. You guys are seeing this now in the B-roll footage. This right here is the ladies who were protecting the president once again, and this girl here can't even holster her pistol correctly. I'm playing it again for you guys, kind of like a loop. It's probably played 2 or 3 times before we get to the next segment. So you got to ask yourself a question, how in the world do we get to this? So people automatically pointed to diversity, equity, inclusion. I've talked about diversity, equity, inclusion in the past. I've talked about how dangerous it is. You want to make sure people are actually qualified for their job rather than bringing people up just for the purposes of their race. We have a vice president who could very, very well be president, who quite frankly was a diversity hire. The diversity hires are dangerous, and this right here was once again another example. But of course, the Secret Service, what did they do? Well, their new chief, who by the way was actually the head of Pepsi-Cola Security,
high demands of the job. To expand hiring, they're aiming to have 30% women recruits by 2030, and even allowed YouTube influencer Michelle Carre to train with agents.
But I'm very conscious as I sit in this chair now of making sure that we need to attract diverse candidates and ensure that we are developing and giving opportunities to everybody in our workforce, and particularly women.
That workforce will be pivotal for the 2024 campaign season, which for the first time includes a former president who already has lifetime protection. Agents were there when Donald Trump...
Obviously, this type of Secret Service that's protecting the former president, which is also protecting the current president, obviously had a bad day. Like I said, you could chalk up to diversity hires. You could chalk up to everything that was happening before that. I think that the diversity hire explanation is probably the most, and I mean, it's probably the simplest explanation. I mean, think about this really quick. And I didn't even say this right before because, once again, we're getting caught up in the emotion, and maybe I'm not helping out there, but let me say this. The fact that Trump got shot, went down, got back up roughly a minute later, and the Secret Service had not wheeled him off. And I understand that that image of him raising his fist going, fight, 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 is something that conservatives like myself are obviously proud of. But at the same time, though, in practicality, we need him off the stage. We need him going to the hospital. We need him taken care of. I'm just simply saying that the Secret Service obviously dropped the ball on this one right here. And of course, there's even audio out there existing of these ladies saying stuff like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Look, 5'2", 5'3" should not be protecting 6'2", 6'3". Just saying. But will this woman take any accountability?
Responsible for this happening?
What I would say is that the Secret Service is responsible for the protection of the former president.
So the buck stops with you?
The buck stops with me. I am the director of the Secret Service. It was unacceptable, and it's something that shouldn't happen again.
The President and Homeland Security Secretary said today they had 100% confidence in you, but there are some members of Congress calling on you to resign.
I appreciate the Secretary's comments, and we're going to continue to be transparent and communicate with people.
You plan to stay on? Absolutely.
I do plan to stay on.
And given previous statements like this...
Shot, this antagonism, this taunting to the intelligence community.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them.
And this.
Yes, it's Donald Trump who needs to tamp down the rhetoric because his funny nicknames for his opponents just hurt too many people's feelings. Not mainstream media outlets like the Washington Post, which says, yes, it's okay to compare Trump to Hitler. Or old Joe says that Donald Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. He's a threat to our freedom. He's a threat to our democracy. He's literally a threat to everything that America stands for. It certainly is an insane and unhinged political ranting from the Democrats, which they're using as information warfare, again, hoping to incite just this kind of event. Lunatic rantings like this.
Just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
When they go low, we kick them.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized right up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump.
Now, let me say this after what you guys saw. I want to go ahead and say this right now. This conspiracy theory that the left is running out there with it being staged, obviously it doesn't really hold any water. I mean, I could very, very easily come out and say, hell, that shit right there ain't true. I could come out here and cuss like I just did and possibly get demonetized or possibly get the ads limited on this video. That's okay. The more right-leaning conspiracy, which is the one that I would be inclined to go with, is obviously it was an inside job. I'm not saying that it was. I'm just saying that that right there is the conspiracy theory from that end, which, of course, the mainstream media is going to leave alone. They're going to try to not touch that with a 10-foot pole. Now, at the end of every video, I always say the same thing, and it's the same thing in this video here. Tell me what you think. I really want to hear what you guys have got to say on this matter. Obviously, because it's YouTube, I got to kind of hold back a little bit on what I really think happened in this case, or else you run the risk of getting removed. It's part of the reason why it is that here in the near future, probably after the election, I'm probably going to move content like this right here upon further review to Rumble full-time, leave the Claymore channel open strictly for video essays, which I hope you guys actually stick around for. But the point is this right here. This, and like I said, I haven't really made my mind up yet. You guys know me, I'm kind of flighty. But still the point is this right here, though. After everything that we have seen, you could walk away thinking to yourself, yeah, this right here, these guys right here dropped the ball. Maybe these guys intentionally dropped the ball. Maybe these guys right here, not only did they intentionally drop the ball, but maybe these guys right here were actually in on it. I'm just simply saying that the whole left-leaning conspiracy theory about it being staged does not hold water at all when you actually look at it and actually see everything. By the way, a lot of these people who are running their mouths, and we'll talk more about this in the second video, they have no idea what the hell they're talking about when it comes to gunplay as a whole. You'll see that in video number 2, but let's get back to it. Shout out once again to Mark Dykes for providing the receipts. It looks pretty obvious that maybe there was something going on here that, quite frankly, was nefarious. I'm not saying it was planned. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm definitely saying that the environment that was created or the environment that's being fostered right now definitely created this. I mean, look, you guys can say what the hell you want to about Donald Trump's mean tweets and anything and everything that he has said, from the bloodbath hoax to Charlottesville, which, by the way, both were debunked. The bloodbath thing was him talking about the job loss if Biden remains in office, what's actually going to happen to the automotive industry, but they continue to run that out there. The Charlottesville hoax has already been debunked officially by Snopes, even though I've debunked it with YouTube on several occasions, and many others have as well. The fact of the matter is that when we talk about this type of rhetoric out there, you can't blame the current president of the United States for this, what happened to him. You got to blame the people in the media who created this environment, who we'll be talking about a little bit later on, and the politicians too, kind of like Chuck Schumer there, who, by the way, has had much, much worse language. It's almost like when Donald Trump came on the scene, something came out of these people's souls, or maybe they didn't have souls, maybe they lost their souls. I really and truly don't know what happened. But obviously, somebody is going to get fired over this, especially given the fact that apparently the Secret Service knew about the shooter hours before the incident occurred. But you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. We'll be out with a second video later on this afternoon, probably early in the evening before the RNC. I do want to watch the speech tonight. I caught the speech last night from Vance, but I do want to see Trump's speech tonight. With that being said, there's still though, please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share the video, please tell me what you think, and I'll see you guys later.